I remember when Stranger Things came out, and it kind of turned into one of those things where you got to be the cool guy if you disliked it or didn't watch it. Kind of like when people would brag that they'd never watched Game of Thrones. But honestly, those people have always been the real losers. Stranger Things is a show that pays so much respect to things like It and Stephen King and E.T., where you get to see a group of adorable and likable kids and some frazzled adults solve a small town mystery. And I can't stress that enough. Stranger Things has heart. It's one of the biggest compliments you can give something in today's world. But you already know what I'm about to say. You already know that Stranger Things is not what it used to be. It's not a television show of heart, it's not about lovable kids, it's not about solving mysteries, it's not about any of those things. And in 5 seasons over the span of almost a decade, we've watched what could have been one of the greatest shows ever turn into one of the biggest, most bloated examples of television of all time. And I'm not trying to be the cool guy by sitting here in my chair and tossing out insults. If you like Stranger Things and you liked this most recent season, more power to you. But to ignore the dip in quality of writing, the dip in cinematography, the dip in acting especially, would be foolish. And I think that some people think that the show is bad because it changed. Au contraire, it changed into something bad. It began as something akin to like Twin Peaks. We don't know anything about this world or these characters. There's an entirely manageable amount of characters, and most importantly, sometimes people die, especially the bad guys. Everything I just said is now changed. By the way, this is your reminder to please like the video and consider subscribing to the channel. I promise not all of my videos are me hating what I'm talking about, so please don't make a brother beg. The general atmosphere of the show has gone from small town mystery / conspiracy to something like an 80s sci-fi action movie with a billion characters. The Upside Down is not this mysterious place anymore, the characters aren't a bunch of kids riding bikes and solving mysteries, and even Jim Hopper went from a local cop who's uncovering a conspiracy to an 80s action hero. 11 went from a curious character to a blank slate with powers. The original kids went from charming little sleuths to 25-year-old douches. But the biggest upset to the atmosphere of the show, outside of all the other stuff, is the lack of mystery and iconography. We used Christmas lights to see what Will was saying because it was cool. Now in the climax of the show, we've got Eleven and Vecna holding their hands out towards each other and seeing who can force push harder. The show insists on peeling back everything that made it cool and just slapping an additional coat of 80s and or action on itself each season. At first it was just the arcade in Season 2, but then it was the mall and Terminator wannabe in Season 3, and then it was the basketball jocks in the Russian prison in Season 4. And finally we've got the squawk. We've got every flavor of 80s music there is, we've got ridiculous haircuts, we've got everything now. And it's gotten to be so much about action now that the moment the kids beat Vecna, they run into the US military. Even the scale of the show has changed. You went from small town in Seasons 1 and 2 to city level in Season 3 to international in Season 4, and now in Season 5 we are on a literal intergalactic scale with this new bridge stuff. You could take a Demogorgon down with a nail bat and a revolver because that was the scale of the show at the time. Now a single Demogorgon can tear through a military installation if it wants to, and the characters get even more plot armor just to keep up with it. And that's just scratching the surface of what this show's turned into. But the absolute worst part of this show as it's gone on is the characters. They're not compelling anymore, they're not funny anymore, and they're not unique anymore. There's like 30 of them, and the only way I can think to describe how this show failed is to go character by character and discuss why Season 5 is brought down a little bit with each one. Dustin is running around, sometimes chill with Steve and sometimes not, constantly projecting his emotions and being a douche. And his little subplot about Hellfire doesn't even matter by the end of the show. He just gets his face busted up at the beginning for no reason. And Steve isn't helping because he's been dumbed down into a man-child who is incapable of doing anything on his own other than making goo-goo eyes at Nancy. For some reason. I don't even know why that love triangle exists, but it does. Lucas is okay, but he only exists as a love interest for Max, which sucks because I've always liked Lucas and now he's legitimately the most useless member of the group, especially when his sister is shoved into every scene for no reason. And Mike's actually alright. Mike might be the most alright character this season next to Robin. He's always in the mix, always doing something, always trying to help, and I got enough of him this season. And then there's the elephant in the room. You know, that elephant. Will Byers. After everyone complaining he hasn't done anything for 2 seasons, he's now shoved in our faces for a minimum of like 10 minutes per episode. He's always yapping away about how he feels inadequate or that he's gay or both, and I don't want to talk too much about Will for obvious reasons, but I have to get this off my chest. I do not care that Will is gay anymore. I understand it's the 80s, I understand it makes him feel like an outcast, you could have done something interesting with this at the latest in Season 3. But we are 5 seasons in, 5 seasons of foreshadowing, and I just don't care anymore. We get like 5 minutes of him coming out to everyone, and I do mean everyone, like, why is Murray here? It makes it even worse that we had an entire plot in Season 3 about Robin coming out, and now we're rinsing and repeating for a character who's been here since before her. I don't understand why this is so drawn out. It's kind of like that argument where if you're a gay character, you're cool and progressive. You're not. Will is still lame for reasons I don't want to mention, he's just openly homosexual now. You're saying it took you until the second to last episode to come out with this information. Come on, dude. And he spends a bunch of time with Robin this season. I like that characters are getting to spend time in interesting combinations this season, and I can't say that Will and Robin are a bad pairing, but half the time they're just talking about being gay. It's not interesting anymore, it's not even done with any tact. Like, why is Robin's girlfriend a character now, and why is she watching Will admit he's gay? What is happening around here? We have a world to save, we've got a dimension to save, and we've got 11 people watching this scene go down. But again, it's so difficult, because honestly, I prefer when most of the characters are together. The bumbling around the last 2 seasons only for everyone to reunite later on was really annoying, but some of the characters straight up have nothing to do. In a normal show, you'd solve this in one of 2 ways. The first, just don't bring them back. It would have been the easiest thing in the world not to bring Erica back, or Mr. Clark, or Robin's girlfriend, or whoever. You don't even have to write some of them out of the show, you can just not bring them back. The other option, which I think people don't consider for some reason, is killing off some of the characters. What's so frustrating to me, especially in this show, is that the writers treat the characters with too much love. Which sounds weird, I know, but being able to kill off characters is story writing 101, and quite frankly, Max should have died last season. Mike and Nancy's parents, at least one of them, should have died this season. Lucas should have died protecting the kids. It's growing to a point beyond plot armor where it just straight up would be easier and more believable to tell a better story if you let some of these characters go. This show's like the opposite of Game of Thrones. The audience is getting excited when you say people are going to die, and then no one does. In Game of Thrones, it was terrifying to watch people like Robb Stark or whoever die. Aside from Joffrey, obviously. Hopper and Eleven straight up don't do much this season. They're just in the Upside Down for a while and get Callie back, but it takes them such a large portion of the runtime to do that. In fact, there's a lot of back and forth to and from the Upside Down, which takes away a lot of the gravity and mystique of that dimension. Actually, it's not even a dimension, it's like a wormhole to another dimension. If you don't see the problem in taking the most iconic thing in this entire franchise and just turning it into another twist reveal so there's more content for the show, then I don't know what to tell you. There's a billion plot holes with making it so that the Upside Down is a wormhole. It does not make any sense, but we needed a groundbreaking twist, so I guess exotic matter exists now in the Stranger Things universe. Great. Anyway, like I said before, Robin's decent, but the problems with her stem more so from season 4 where she was flanderized like crazy. A lot of the defenders of this show like to claim that people like Robin tend to project something like her season 3 persona while having a more internal season 4 persona. Okay. Regardless, if you're comparing her to season 4, I guess she's fine, but she feels the most aggressively Stranger Things, if I had to say. If you don't like the style of this show, she's definitely going to be your least favorite character. And I'm not saying that it's unrealistic for her to project one thing and become another as she gets more comfortable with our characters. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that it does not play like that was the intention of the show. And even if it was in your wildest dreams, that was the intention of season 4, not season 3, so there was no build-up or foreshadowing. Are you getting tired of this yet? We're not even halfway done with the characters. You see the problem with letting all of them live? Jonathan and Nancy this season are the definition of born to goon and forced to lock in. Jonathan is such a goofball and can only focus on trying to propose 90% of the time, along with having jealousy issues. Nancy kinda just ignores him until they're trapped in a room where they think they're gonna die. And I like that scene of them, but I acknowledge that it takes forever to get there and feels a bit obvious in hindsight. And Nancy really just spends the rest of the show entirely locked in, which I don't know if I can criticize, but it is a bit wild just how locked in she is. Also, side note, but how crazy is it that Jonathan is Joyce's son? Like, I'm serious. I know you know that, but I honestly think that if someone somehow forgot that fact, you'd never even know from this season that they're mother and son because they don't interact at all. Like, that's insane, especially because their relationship is so important in season 1. Max is... I hate to say this, and I don't often talk about a person's acting ability, but Max's acting for the majority of the season is distractingly bad. Like, really, really bad. So bad that I dreaded seeing her interact with Holly because she is by far the weakest actress on the show. I've seen her other stuff, so I don't know if she's just checked out here or what it is, but it's not great, dude. Her side story with Holly's alright, but it also suffers from being super drawn out. And Holly Wheeler, again, being added as a protag so late in the show just gets on my nerves. Her character's inoffensive, but it's annoying how much time she takes up compared to someone like Lucas who's got nothing to do. I hate Murray and I think his character's annoying. I don't see the sense in letting him be anything but the delivery guy this season. He's also right behind Rockin' Robin as the most flanderized character. Like, this guy used to be an all-business conspiracy nut, and now he's this greasy sleazeball who's always making inappropriate jokes at inappropriate times. Similar to Murray is Mr. Clark, who, like, hasn't been relevant in 2 seasons. I don't even mind that they brought this guy back. I think it makes sense, but it would have been cooler for just a scene or 2. I don't know why he gets to be on the team now. They have to, like, make up reasons for this guy to be relevant, and he's not even in the epilogue. It's hilarious. And for better or worse, I thought Callie was the most suspicious looking character I've ever seen in my entire life. And all of her friends that we met in season 2 getting dusted off screen was tragic, but also just proves how generous this show is with the main characters, which I find infuriating. I still think we could have gotten more depth from Callie though. She barely feels like the same character now, and I know why, but it would have been good to get more of her. And Erica's annoying, but on the grand scale of the show, she's not even that annoying. I guess she gets a pass. And Joyce is also here. I know I'm doing that thing where I'm being funny by understating what she does, but I'm not even really understating anything. She actually doesn't do anything in this season aside from constantly comforting Will. And then she gets to chop the head off Vecna because... sure. And of course, we gotta talk about the villains in general. Vecna, Dr. K, Random Soldier number 2, and the Mind Flayer. Actually, I think Vecna's alright. I never liked that he was introduced so late in the show, but he's actually a pretty good villain. I just wish his motivation was explained before the last hour of the show. I think it would have been a lot cooler to know that for a while to sympathize with him a bit. And I like that it's ambiguous whether or not he was truly influenced by the Mind Flayer or if he's willingly doing all this, though I'm leaning towards the latter because... that weird briefcase is just another thing I know that wasn't planned last season. Dr. K might actually be the worst character in the entire show, which is insane because she doesn't even do anything. She's played by Linda Hamilton because they wanted another 80s Terminator reference, but she's not menacing, she doesn't succeed a single time, she could have been killed by either Eleven or Hopper at multiple points, and she's cartoonishly evil and two-dimensional. Enough said. The Mind Flayer, while not the worst thing in the show, just makes me really sad. I thought that the Mind Flayer was the coolest thing ever back in season 2. Even though they clearly didn't plan for it to be the villain after season 1, it made sense that the Demogorgon was not the biggest bad from the Upside Down. And the Mind Flayer was introduced to the other characters using background static on VHS, which was really cool and unsettling. But now, like in season 3, it's just a giant flesh monster that runs around trying to stomp on or eat the heroes. The mystique is gone, it doesn't even do anything until the very last episode of the season, which is a shame, and it goes down without much of a fight. It's also, strangely, really vulnerable to bullets, even though I feel like regular bullets have never been something that works very well on anything from the Upside Down or the Abyss, but whatever. Vecna, the Mind Flayer, and Dr. K do not get a single kill on the main cast. Dr. K has no good motivations, Vecna gets a genuinely decent one way too late, and the Mind Flayer is forgotten about by the script until the very end. And I know people smarter than me have pointed out how there are no Demogorgons or Demodogs or Demobats during the climax, which is true, and the reason people complain is because, again, it feels very convenient, but I'm more upset that maybe the second most iconic part of the show, the Demogorgon, barely even appears in the finale outside of the recap. But again, outside of the climax, the happily ever after for the characters is actually pretty good. It was best to just skip to the graduation so we get to see what the characters are doing far later. Hopper and Joyce get engaged, that's great. The older kids are mostly in college but talk about how they're basically trauma bonded and want to visit more, that's fitting. And the younger kids, I say younger, but it's really the 25-year-olds compared to the 30-year-olds, they all get to play one last on-screen game of D&D, where Mike gets to narrate about where they go next through their D&D characters. And we even get a little maybe on whatever happened with Eleven. The denouement for the characters is pretty fitting for the finale. Steve's a coach and a sex ed teacher, Robin's in college, and for some reason Vicky doesn't even get an update even though it felt like she became an official part of the crew. But really, even though every single character gets a happy ending and that doesn't feel realistic or earned, it does feel nice. And I think instead of just saying that Stranger Things is a bad show, it's more just emblematic of media today. Instead of being rewarded for watching the show, you're rewarded for finishing it, which are two different things. You're rewarded for making it a global phenomenon. You're rewarded for letting the story keep going. But while it's happening, twists and turns come from nowhere and don't make any sense. The stakes are inconsistent because the main cast is rarely truly at risk, the seasons take like 3 years to come out, and the mystery in this series, outside of the random twists, is all but gone at this point. Stranger Things, I think, will be kinda like the Avatar series. Sure, everyone watched some of it, but it's slowly going to fade into something that we all kinda remember, but it won't be a cultural staple like the things that it tries to imitate. And as a cherry on top of the poop sundae, people are spotting a bunch of generative AI in the closing credits. Great. This show doesn't even get a number score because its seasons are so inconsistent, but season 5 gets a 5 out of 10. Goodbye, Stranger Things. Maybe I'll rewatch your first season and only your first season someday. I appreciate you making it to this point in the video. If you enjoy talking about video games, movies, TV shows, and superheroes and stuff, you should absolutely like the video and subscribe to the channel because that's what I would do if I were you. Or not, that's fine. Play nice, people.